Recently, Techland celebrated the 10th year anniversary of Call of Juarez Gunslinger with Dying Light 2's The Undead or Alive event and the Gunslinger bundle. This event made it possible for us to use a firearm as much as we could. That is something that we don't usually do in Dying Light 2. Unfortunately, after the event is over, we have to say goodbye to this gun and the experience of shooting once again because you can't find the mean-ass gun anymore. You can't purchase it from the trader and you don't get the blueprint for it. You can't get it also as a reward and it's not part of the bundle. This event has brought up again the topic of guns. So now again we wonder, why are there no guns? Where are the guns? And are we finally getting guns in the future?
Hello, I'm Henkel.
According to lore from the mission history lessons, the guns were confiscated by the military, and the military also ran out of ammo and firearms become obsolete. This explanation is not very satisfactory. There are so many loopholes, it is incomplete. It raises more questions than answers. In other words, the lore is far-fetched as far as the reason why there are no guns is concerned. The lore could be alright. Poorly written it is, lackluster storytelling, but still quite acceptable for this game. But it is not enough to explain why. It sounded more like a made-up story, a rumor, or gossip than a piece of historical fact. Henkel even said that history is not hard science, and because of that, we rarely ever really know.
And that's the thing about history. We rarely ever really know.
So, the military running out of ammunition and firearms being obsolete are at least what is generally believed. So how could we accept these as statements of facts? All he has provided us was a general belief. Our source of history lesson or our source of explanation for why there are no guns isn't convincing at all. If Techland didn't really want us to have guns, they could have written a better story. The lore could have worked if they have provided more content explaining it further, like the mission itself could be longer, or there are other side missions to explain it, or there are lootable items such as cassette tapes, newspaper clips, artifacts, letters, or documents. But for now, let's accept the lore as it is momentarily. Some would argue that adding guns into the game would break the lore, but I don't think so. I think it seems logical that at that time, when Aiden came to Villador, guns and ammunition are already available. Remember, the massacre took place in March of 2024. At the end of the year, General Pratt died. Fast forward to 14 years later or sometime in 2036, the events of Dying Light 2 took place. That is when Aiden came to Villador. People could have made the weapons themselves. It could be improvised. They could make makeshift guns and create them from scraps and common everyday materials. If people could make DIY grenades, it is possible that they could have made firearms and ammunition at this time. People will find a way. Then, it is also possible that people could set up markets for guns, trading. It could be smuggled in and out of Villador. As we have witnessed, there are people like Aiden who was able to get into Villador. Since the ban and confiscation didn't happen elsewhere, people from the outside could make guns. They could have guns. They would have access to them. And people like Aiden could have smuggled them into Villador. Helken said firearms became obsolete. He's probably correct, but what happened to these obsolete firearms? Where are they taken? Were they put in a secret stash by Pratt? Oh wait, the stash, according to claims, is for ammunition. Didn't mention that there are also guns and firearms in the stash. After confiscation, the guns could have been taken anywhere, but the game is silent about this, so we don't know. They could have been destroyed, but there is really nothing about that. There's no information. This could have been believable, like I said, if there are additional information about what they have done to the weapons that were confiscated. Then what about the guns that we already have in the game, like the boomstick? Why is someone at the BK base selling its blueprint? Isn't this lore breaking already? This actually supports the idea that after 14 years, people were able to finally create guns. Guns here are not confiscated because the blueprint itself could be sold. Then let's set aside the issue of guns here. What about the content, the DLCs that we could get that seem to break the lore too? Yet Techland has made them available for us to buy or get for free. Techland also did this for Dying Light 1. We have Bill from Left 4 Dead, the Astronaut Bundle, and the Prisoner Pack. How about the Gunslinger Bundle? Isn't that lore breaking? Unless Aiden is role-playing, how did a cowboy from the late 1800s America ended up in Villador in 2036? He probably used a time machine. So if you don't want to do anything that's lore-breaking, then don't use any of these additional content. Don't use guns at all. You have the option to use them or not to use them if you want to stick to the lore. Then you could also play solo, or just play with people who also don't like guns. Like I mentioned earlier, the lore is not satisfactory, but they have written it as a validation, though it's weak for the dev team to remove the guns. Remember E3 2019 playthrough demo? There are guns in Villador. In the E3 demo, Frank was shot by one of the renegades. Then in a fight scene, Aiden was able to use the Scorpio. So it looks like the guns were originally intended to be in the game that we could use. So what happened between then and now? We really don't know, or there could have been answers, but as a result, the guns were removed. It is clear here that the guns were initially part of the game, but somehow things have changed. Aside from the lore, Techland came up with the idea of the modern Dark Ages theme to be experienced by the player, but this also doesn't work because logically combine this theme with the lore, it is still possible for people to be able to make guns. Guns were already invented way before. The earliest weapons, which historians consider as firearms, were already used by the Chinese in as early as the 10th century, and this technology was then brought to Europe. So now, during the modern Dark Ages that Villador is experiencing, people already have the knowledge to make guns, and they don't need complicated and modern technology to create and improvise makeshift guns, firearms, and ammunition. But we do have guns in Dying Light 2. We have the boomstick, which is a self-made gun created from scraps. It has 5 shots when fully upgraded, but it is useless after you used all the shots. Then we have the left finger of Gulova, which technically isn't a gun, but a finger gun. Then we have the Kadum shotgun, which is really tedious to obtain and you can't create and keep it. Then last but not least, we have the mean-ass gun, which could only be obtained during the Undead or Alive event. But could we really technically consider them as guns? Well, maybe, but we can't use them like how we traditionally use guns in games. They may have ammo somewhere, but wouldn't it be much better if we could obtain ammo separately? Then it's part of our inventory, then we can buy and craft them. Then we can't appreciate what our guns look like. For some gamers, this is important. We only get to see them in our inventory and just for some split seconds when we use them. We can't hold them normally and have them ready as our primary weapon, and we can't really aim them like how we aim normal guns. Then we use them as accessory, and they are under the accessory category of our inventory. They go with our throwables. Did you shoot? Were you done? So with all these discussion about guns in Dying Light 2, could we safely say that we are finally getting guns in this game? I really don't know. A lot of people in the community have claims that there will be guns through the next DLC. Some say that the DLC will reveal to us the location of General Pratt's secret stash. But, like I mentioned earlier in the video, the lore only mentions of secret stash of ammo. It is silent about whether there are also guns in the stash. So I really haven't seen any definitive confirmation for any of this. A few days ago, we have the Summer Games Fest teaser from Dying Light 2, but it only has shown us some upcoming updates. Then we also have the announcement about the DLC, but it only mentioned of the delay of the release date. Neither of these provided us with any further information. And even if Techland have some official announcement or there is insider information leaked about having guns in a future DLC, I still won't be convinced. I would only believe it when I see a teaser of a playthrough with guns in it, but even then, I would be skeptical because things might still change until the final release. If Techland really does care about the community, they should listen and make the community happy. A lot of people in the community have been wanting guns. There are also a lot of potential players who have dismissed the game because they want guns in a zombie game and they feel like it's not complete without it. But what type of guns should we see here? It doesn't really matter if we see modern weapons or improvised weapons because they won't break the lore. Originally, the story is already incomplete. Techland needs a good story writer to fill in the blanks, to put all the important details. I hope they won't give us an unconvincing and lame, poorly written story as again an excuse for whatever they come up with. So the guns shouldn't be overpowered at the beginning. Along with guns is a new skill tree where you will gain XPs and level up your skills. Then, give us good perks and make grinding to level up rewarding, so later on, our characters could have very overpowered firearms. To make everything balanced and more challenging, guns shouldn't be something easy to obtain. Low level and less powerful guns and gun parts could be looted from crates and containers, but more powerful and special guns and gun parts could only be obtained by completing certain challenges, missions, or by completing bounties from the Pilgrim Outposts of the Techland GG website or bounties from Shenzhou or Harper. Also, certain guns, though they could be dropped and given to low levels, should only be obtained after you reach a certain level. Give us the ability to create and assemble them. We could loot low level and broken gun parts, be able to repair them, or upgrade them and assemble these parts together. We could also obtain blueprints by finishing challenges and missions, or buy them at a very high price. And we could only buy them from certain sellers or also by completing bounties. The materials for crafting and repairing them should also be very limited and expensive if we are able to buy them. At the end of the day, there should be options and more freedom on part of the player to use or not to use firearms. Nothing should be forced. Devs should listen to everyone, not just people who kiss their ass and people who only have nice things to say about the devs in the game. If you look closely, the community is very divided when it comes to opinions about the game. The fact that there are different opinions means that there are people who question the decisions and practices of the devs and the new content that they bring to us, which means that there is something really wrong. The devs should respect the community by not putting out subpar, half-baked, unfinished games, call it a day, and expect everyone to support them. So we, as gamers, should be critical of anything that they put out. Give credit when credit is due. Otherwise, we shouldn't be silent and we should call them out. We are giving them our money, so we deserve better.
Bet you wonder where all the guns went, right?
Oh.
The army seized them after a lunatic killed a bunch of people in March 2024. God knows who's got them now.